Well, hello, everybody. Good evening. I hope everybody's doing well. I see over there we've got hashtag in the chat. Good to see you there. Hashtag with Tangent Trails. We're gonna get this draft started here really shortly. I'm really excited about this one. We did a recorded version of this with Everyday Backpacker, and then we also had Dave Off Grid on. And I just really enjoy this. It's a sort of fantasy draft where we can think about our favorite things outdoors. And I love lists. So if you've ever watched High Fidelity, that should give you some sense of kind of where this idea comes from. Just picking our favorite top fives. And speaking of favorites, I'm going to start introducing you to a couple of my favorite YouTubers from around the old interwebs. We're going to start here first with Mark Maine from Tridudy on the Trail. I missed the in the initial draft of the thumbnail, but Mark, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Snackbox?
I'm doing well, It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. So if you're not familiar with Mark's channel, Tridudy on the Trail, you need to check it out. There'll be a link below. And be sure that you check out his channel. He does a lot of really great trips, especially wintertime trips are really exciting for a lot of folks and up in Michigan. And so a lot of that great area. Michigan is probably one of the most underrated hidden gems in America. Would you agree with that?
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, I mean, all year round, there's fantastic backpacking and hiking.
Absolutely. And you've run, what are you up to, about 3 dozen Ironmans at this point?
Yeah. Well, 2.
2.
But not 2 dozen, 2.
2 dozen. Well, it's still 2 more than I think most people who are watching tonight would be able to run, and about 3 more than I'd be able to run. I think I owe the world an Ironman to get to 0. So it's great to have you tonight.
Thank you.
And speaking of hidden gems, we've got here, they're not hidden and they're in a place in the country that nobody would be surprised is beautiful hiking. We've got here Miller and Debbie from MAD Hippies Life, 2 of my favorites. And for those of you who don't know, Miller took me over to the Colorado Trail to start this year. I still haven't put together the video for it because I was a little morose when I wasn't able to finish, but I'm really happy that you 2 are here. Grateful for your time. How are you 2 doing tonight?
Absolutely wonderful. Yeah. Thanks for having us. This sounds like it's going to be a great night.
I think so too. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And in looking over at the chat, we've got some familiar faces there. We've got Jerry, we've got Rolf. I don't know if you know Rolf yet there, Miller and Debbie, but if you don't, you need to. He's absolutely one of my favorite people out there in Colorado. And then we've got hashtag, I don't know if you know this or not, but Tangent Trails Jerry got a trail name recently, hashtag. And I got to tell you, it's a stellar. It's when Patty noticed it first, she's over there too with Girl Plus Dog Adventures. When she noticed it, I remember saying right away, I was like, oh man, that's a great trail name. Hashtag is just so good. It's nice and succinct. Nobody else is going to have it. I think it's terrific. So happy to see you there. And it looks like Christina from Christina Hikes and Stuff is here as well. Thank you, Christina, for joining us. Well, let's start talking here. We've got so much to cover. We are talking today about, we're going to each take turns drafting our bucket list of best adventures, whatever it is. And we're going to throw a wide net here. So the way that you've been instructed to think about this, and the way I want everybody in the audience to think about this, is sort of throw a broad net. So whatever that adventure is, it could be car camping in a Walmart in Kansas. If that's your bucket list, then great. If your bucket list is to climb Everest and take a picture of your butt up there, I don't know what your kind of adventure, I don't know what you're into, but whatever those adventures are, we're going to throw that net. It's good to see you there. Jennifer is over. Jennifer, good to see you over in Buena Vista. Thanks for joining us. And Dave over there from Dave Off Grid. He's definitely going to make an appearance on many more of these in the future as well. So it's good to see everybody. Happy Thanksgiving to you. And I'm grateful for everybody here in this space and everybody in the chat. Thank you all. Well, let's start here. What I think we should do is figure out a way to decide who the first pick is. And what I think you should do at this point is arm wrestle. So MAD Hippies and Tridudy, you get to decide how you're going to do it. There we go. So here's the question. The first team that can answer this, speaking of arm wrestling, one of the things you might know about me is that one of my favorite terrible 80s movie is about arm wrestling. So, and it was shot, much of it was shot, at least the B-roll was shot in Telluride, Ouray, and other places in Colorado. So if you can name the Sylvester Stallone 1986 hit vehicle.
Can I?
Yep, go for it.
It's got to be over the top, right?
It has to be over the top. So try to
never saw it.
No.
Is there any other arm wrestling movie?
I don't think there is. And here's the best part. So telling you that it's a terrible movie. Let me sell it to you as the worst. Like, the premise is just ridiculous. And I talked about it ages ago in a silly video. Sylvester Stallone has to win an arm wrestling match to get his son back. That's all you need to know. He's a truck driver and has to win an arm wrestling match to get his son back. That is, to me, the epitome of a terrible 80s movie. And I love it. So here's how it'll work. It'll be Tridudy will go first, then we'll go down to Mad Hippie's Life there, and I will follow up at third, and then we'll reverse the order for subsequent rounds. So each round it'll reverse. So Tridudy, after this, you'll be selecting 2 at a time because you'll be ending a round for us and then starting the next. And then when I go, I'll do the same as well. Miller and Debbie, you're good to go. You just choose 1 at a time, and make sure that you there's
2 of us, so we get 2 anyway.
That's right. If you want to go for 2, I already give you full permission, because I feel like you all have a better bucket list than me right out of the gate here.
I don't know.
Well, we'll see about that one here. And for those of you listening at home or watching along with us, be putting in your sort of first round picks, but maybe wait until after the first round is over so you don't give good pick ideas to these folks who are going to steal it and try to beat me. And then also afterward, watch out on the community tab there on YouTube. I'll be posting a survey to see who wins. And I do have gold, silver, and bronze medals for all of the winners here. I was thinking of what I could give to 4th place if we had 3 different people. 3 different people here. And I thought the best gift for 4th place would be a Cliff Bar, because you get a medal or nobody wants that. All right. So with the first pick overall, you have your pick, Mark, of every adventure that has ever been conceived of by any hiker or backpacker in the history of time. No pressure. It's got to be the perfect pick. What are you taking?
See, now I almost wish I wasn't going first. You totally set me up. So honestly, when you asked me about this, it was an easy first choice. And I was inspired by this when I first started coming back into the backpacking world. You've done it. And when you put a questionnaire out there as to should I do this or this, I mean, I knew where my vote was, and it was John Muir Trail. Hands down is the one that I want to do first and foremost.
There we go with the first pick off the board, an absolute humdinger of a perfect first pick off the board there. The John Muir Trail, those 220 miles going from, depending on where you start, Yosemite Valley to the top of Whitney or vice versa. I got to hand it to you. This one is a stellar pick there, Tridudy. What do you think there, Miller and Debbie?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This one it's incredible because you go those 220 miles and you never cross a road. And in fact, once you get up into Yosemite, if you go northbound like I did, you actually get to the road and you can see it about 50 feet to the right, and you sort of skirt and then cut back to the left and miss all roads. So for 220 miles, you don't set foot on a single paved road, and it's just absolutely incredible. I think that's a great pick there, Tridudy.
Thank you. I actually I watched a video about it. I think it was a Billy Yang video. I don't know if you've seen it. And it was, if you get the chance, it's unbelievable and really inspired me. So
have you all seen what's the mile and a half movie? I think it might be on.
I've seen it. Yeah, that was another one's fantastic.
I think that one really is. Here, I'm going to try a little something. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I'm going to share my screen. And I got a little excited this afternoon and picked up a little external monitor. And here's what we're looking at. These are some really stellar pictures. A lot of granite, a lot of exposure, just a beautiful trail. You can see here, we're dealing with one of the most beautiful places in America. And I think mile for mile, easily one of the more beautiful hikes in America. I think you hit that one out of the park there. And now let me see if I can figure out how to stop sharing screen. There we go.
Looks gorgeous, yeah.
It's
nothing like the wilderness. I mean, if you don't have to cross a road and you just stay back in it, I mean, that's what it's really all about.
I think so. I think it's really cool too, because if you do a resupply mid hike, you actually have to send in a bucket, like a paint bucket, a big 5-gallon bucket, and they have horses take it in. And so I think it costs about $130 just to pay for the shipping and then the transportation in there to the resupply. But well worth it. It's a bucket list adventure. So it really does make a lot of sense that that'd be first off the board. And speaking of first off the board, let's go with the second off the board here. Mad Hippies Life, you are on the clock. What do you got for us?
Not the entire thing, but the PCT, Washington State, has always been somewhere we wanted to go back to. We've never done the through hike. We've seen bits and pieces because we lived up there for quite some time and have a lot of memories of exploring the Cascades. And just getting back to that area and doing it now later in life and just staying on the trail, taking our time and absorbing it. I think especially the Northern Cascades, that just, oh my gosh, just the beauty of just being on those ridge lines and going in and out of tree line and just seeing that wild nature that's up there in the Northern Cascades would just be incredible.
And we have a lot of memories up there. I have pictures of our little girls when they were little bitty camping and, just going back and seeing Mount Rainier. We'd go for drives to Mount Rainier. And so
that's the only way we could see the sun.
Yeah, you want to see the sun, so we go up to Mount Rainier.
Yeah, I think this is a really solid pick, and I love the specificity of it, that it's not the whole PCT, that Washington stretch. And I think here, this is a great example of how different those mountain ranges can be, that, the character of both of these hikes that you both have selected, they're both, the John Muir Trail is effectively on the PCT for 85% of the trip, but this is just the character of this hike is just very different. I think you all hit a home run with this guy for sure.
It is a beautiful one.
Around 700 to 500 miles, that just seems like a really good number when it comes to hiking, because you're not too far removed from your normal life that you can come back to versus the whole PCT. 6 months is a lot of time.
For us, yeah.
You're going to be away from your family, your children, your grandkids. It's just a lot of time. It's not out of the question.
But for now, and we have friends and family up in Washington State, so they would meet us along the way. So that's nice too.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's great. I also love that you mentioned 500 to 700 miles is the perfect length for a hike. I think that's terrific, because my favorite trail, as you all know, and your favorite trail, I think I can assume based on the hat you're wearing there, Miller, is that 500 miles between Denver and Durango. Oh, I got a little excited there. I was trying to type up my my first pick for you. All right, so we're going. Yeah, that's building that suspense. That's what they say in the biz here. We want to make sure we keep them guessing. And so with my first pick here, I'm going to go with this one. We're going to go international. I would love here to do the Tour de Mont Blanc in France. And I think it's got a couple of different sort of access points here. But this is one that my buddy Dan hiked years and years ago. And ever since he did, I've wanted to make my way over here. And I think this one is just spectacular. And sort of thinking about this with little one, we, as many of you all know, Details and I welcomed in our new little dude, and we're really excited about having him around, but having hikes available with lodges along the way, it can be, I think it's great to have options like that, but especially if you want to stay outdoors early, I think when the kids are early and young, I think that's a really good option there as well.
Yeah.
Have you all ever thought about going international? Don't say any picks, but I'm curious.
Well, I just had to scratch something, so
that's hilarious. So I hope I'm stealing everybody's picks here because I'm going to go ahead with my number 2 pick. This one is not international, and actually I think it's really similar to your first pick there, Miller and Debbie. I'm going to pick the Wonderland Trail that wraps 93 miles around Mount Rainier. This one has been on my list for the longest time. In fact, when I think of my bucket list, this one pops in high on the list specifically because it is so hard to get a permit for it. In fact, It's easier to get a John Muir Trail permit than this one. But that Wonderland Trail, I think, is just, it's calling my name. It's been calling my name, and I enter the lottery every single year. And every single year I get a no sometime around March 22nd. I think this is a really good one because it's 93 miles, but they actually force you to take permits that extend the trip a little bit longer. So you can't actually, you can't crush too many crazy miles there. They sort of cap you at, I think, 17 miles a day. So those big days on the Colorado Trail are not something they would do because they know better than to send people out. I think there's also a lot more elevation gain, generally speaking, than most people are used to. And so I think it's a really smart move by the park administration there to limit the miles you can do.
That's a thigh burner all the way.
Yeah. I think it averages something like 6,000 feet of elevation gain a day. I mean, I think it's pretty, it's a juicy.
That's plenty.
If you could show the topo map, people would understand, and maybe they wouldn't do it, and you would have better chances of getting the permit.
There you go. Good idea.
The topo map of that trip is crazy.
It is.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you said that there, Miller, because here's what I have for you. Let's take a peek at this guy with the magic of the internet. Look at this thing here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's I mean, the energy output doing that trail, every time you get to the top of that climb, you're just like, it was so worth it.
Yeah. Well, you know what they don't tell you about is that when you're doing that trail there, you can actually roll down the mountains. So you're 100% of your energy is expended getting up the mountains there. And so I just think
clever strategy. I like it.
Glissading on rocks. That sounds good.
This is Tim Mason. I actually met Tim on the CT this year, and he was a completer, did a killer good job there. And I got to tell you here, he's a great conversation. So if you ever get a chance to bump into Tim Mason on the trail, that's a person you want to hang around and adjust your pace to stay with him, because he can keep a conversation. And we also have some shots being fired here. We've got Dave Off Grid saying he's hating on me for using using Safari. And I got to tell you, Dave, here's the deal, is that I have all of my little bookmarks for myself up at the top of my Chrome. And so I don't want to show the world what I've got under my bookmarks here. So it's really it's more about being secret than anything else here. I've got to say, let me see if I can save this one here. There's one in the chat. I don't want you all to look at it because you're going to steal some ideas there. But, what do we got here? Miller and Debbie, you were on the clock here with your next pick.
Besides the hot route, the Tour de Mont Blanc, gone. We're not traveling too far away with a lot of our picks, so you can kind of start narrowing things down. We have always wanted to get in the car, head north, and do the Wind River Range in Wyoming. That one, again, trying to keep things just wild. The CDT runs through there. You've got the high route, you've got the low route, you've just got this jagged rock formations all over the place. It's probably one of the more unique ranges, in our opinion, when it comes to the Colorado Rockies, or the Rocky Mountains in general.
Absolutely.
The mountain range in there is just phenomenal, and the wilderness areas are just incredible as well. So this one is definitely high on the list for us.
Yeah, I think this one's a great one. It's fascinating because it's sort of like we were talking about when you and Mark both picked sections of the PCT in some respect, that the mountains are so very different. And when we look at this one here, these are it's just such a different character to mountain range. And as you mentioned, it's actually getting a lot more attention recently with the high route, the low route. There are a lot of off-trail sort of sections that you can do. And the Cirque, what is it? The
Cirque of Towers.
Cirque of Towers is in there. That one could have made my list for sure really easily. I think this is a great pick. I probably shouldn't be saying great pick because, if you all end up beating me in this one, we're going to have a talk about it. Oh, here. I'm moving my mouse around and I see it on my screen, but I didn't realize it was on the side screen. So this is what happens. This is what happens when you have a little one and your brain is not working. Here we've got Tim One Eye here mentioning that home run here with the Wind River Range. I think that one is absolutely, really great. And he's also putting out some profanity here. I don't know what he's saying here with, I think it's, it's actually, that section is on the list of some of the better places. So I'm just giving you a hard time there, Tim. But that means that Tridudy, you are on the clock for 2 at this point.
Boy.
But you can start with just 1. We started with the John Muir Trail,
Yes.
followed up similarly strong. What do you have for us?
So I have never been to the Grand Canyon, and I'd really, really like to go to the Grand Canyon. And when I do, I'd like to do the rim to rim to rim and do all 40, I think it's like 45-ish, 47-ish, if you go down and, all the way back around. So that is one that I would really, really want to do. It just looks amazing. Looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I think that one's great. I haven't. What about you two? Have you done the rim to rim? Maybe not the rim.
Never done the rim to rim. Have definitely been there and seen this incredible natural phenomenon. It just, you get there and you just feel so small.
Yeah.
It's to me, seeing it for the first time, I always thought the mountains are upside down here because you're looking down instead of up, and it's just so incredible to look at.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make sense how big it is. And I think your sense too, Mark, what makes it a perfect bucket list addition is the actual getting into the canyon. Because if you're not going to hike into the canyon, everything you need to see is going to take a half an hour, but also it's going to leave you with the sense that it's sort of one sort of it's all the same thing. It'll feel not monolithic. That's not the right word, but you get the kind of idea that you look at the canyon and it just feels the same at each lookout. But if you actually get into it, then you start to see how diverse the landscape is within it. I think that's an absolutely phenomenal pick, especially given that one as a bucket list pick is something that adds this extra layer of physical exertion that is part of the challenge, right? It's not just seeing the beautiful thing, but it's engaging physically with that space. So I think I really like that pick. I think that's a really solid one.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And the next pick you're going to have is trash though. So let's
it's very possible. So I've never done any hiking really in the Northeast. And to me, the White Mountains, specifically the presidentials, I think there's 7 peaks, if I'm not mistaken, that I would love to do the hike that actually does all 7 of those, 4,000 footers or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they might get a little higher than that actually, but the presidential traverse is one of the most grueling hikes. I mean, it's really a challenge because they didn't invent switchbacks when they made New Hampshire.
Yeah, and it's not a long hike, I don't think. And I think in total it's probably maybe 20-ish.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the 30 range, maybe 27 to 32 somewhere. Let's look that one up. I think here. Here's one of the things that I learned is that I've never been more wrong more frequently than when the internet was invented. That people say, like, what generation do you wish you were? And I want to be the generation that dies right as the internet is being invented, so I can just stubbornly be wrong about things and believe that I am very right about them. All right, let's take a peek here at this guy here. What do we got here? Presidential Traverse. You're right. 4,000 feet. Sorry there. See, I told you that I'm wrong about a lot of stuff much more frequently.
I won't second guess you, Snack Box. I mean, I'm in the presence of greatness here.
Well, you really should second guess me. I just showed you how wrong. I was wrong by thousands of feet because I was thinking 6,000 feet and I could have been just really, really wrong on that one. Does anybody see how long this one is? Maybe we got some people in the chat who are able to fact check me here. Let me go ahead and kick somebody out here of the chat. I don't know what we're doing there. Yeah. There we go. That was a friend from college. It was a different time. So, all right.
That's where it all started.
Yeah. Presidential Traverse here, 23 miles long. Did you see me wrong twice there?
I didn't see anything. You're good.
Yeah, yeah.
We're amongst friends.
Yeah, you're pretty gracious there. I tell you, this is the internet, though. We're on YouTube, so I'm sure there's gonna be some hate thrown my way at some point. We'll see about it. I think that's a dynamite pick, and I also think that it's great for people who are really into hiking, because for those of you who aren't aware of sort of American recreational history, most of what we understand to be great backpacking and sort of backcountry culture comes from the White Mountains there. So if you think about the huts, it was really a model that a lot of folks, the sort of White Mountain Coalition, took from the European model. So you can still get out there. I spent a night in the Zealand hut there in the Whites, and it was incredible. I think it's just a really beautiful space, but historically it's one of the more important ones that we have on the list here. And it's got the presidents in it. We all know that the presidents were all stand-up people with no flaws or baggage whatsoever.
None
at all. Well, that puts speaking of problematic and baggage here. Just kidding, everybody. Here we got Miller and Debbie up with their next one. What do you have for us today?
This is a place that's probably near and dear to your heart because you love mosquitoes. We all know about it. Holy Cross Wilderness. We fell in love with that area definitely through the Colorado Trail. But, when you start exploring topo maps and you start seeing other trails in this area, and then you start researching and seeing photos and videos and whatnot, your imagination just goes wild. And there is a loop trail in that area that kind of goes, what is it? I think it's the Half Moon Trailhead. And you basically just get yourself up the tree line. You're hiking through kind of that wilderness area where you're in and out, in and out. You've got high lakes above you. You've got granite spires, and then you've got the woods below you. But then you start going through a lot of mining areas, because there was just a lot of history there. And there's the Holy Cross City, I believe it is. It's an old ghost town in the area where they were mining. So you get an added extra bonus of some good history. But then you get to a point where you have to pick. You have two mountain passes. You can go Fancy Pass or you can go Missouri Lakes. Either one is going to be grand. It doesn't offer or add a whole lot of extra mileage if you take the Missouri Lakes part of it. And then you go up and over the pass and you wind up in this incredible drainage that runs the length all the way back to the trailhead. I think that's called the Fall Creek area. And it's just something that's always been on our minds, something we've always looked at. And we just can't wait to get there and actually see it firsthand.
And the history, I do appreciate the history. Like you mentioned with the Whites, and I do appreciate the history. And that part fascinates me with the Northeast as well. That'd be interesting to see that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the Holy Cross Wilderness is such a good pick because it's an area that if you only pass through, it can be, for the reasons you mentioned, hard to love, but it's still one of the most beautiful stretches of the Colorado Trail. And I think if it hadn't been so buggy, people would probably remember it as being really up there with the Collegiate West, the San Juans. Just to give you some sense here, this is the CT right here as it enters the Holy Cross. And it's just one of the most, it really captures the spirit of the Colorado Trail. But to your point too, that sort of the mining history is just so unique there, as Details points out there. The mining history is really cool. You really get a taste of that sort of area surrounding Leadville. And the Holy Cross Wilderness just has such a unique history with it. And, coincidentally enough, if you look right behind me, you will see a photo I took in the Holy Cross Wilderness right as you get to the top of that really brutal, gnarly climb in segment, what is that, segment 10. It's just really, I think that's a really great pick. I don't know if I put it on the banner for you here.
The beauty of this loop is it has so many side trips you can take. So you could expand this, from a 3 or 4 day hike, you could expand it to 5 or 7 just because there's so many little side trips you can take up to high alpine lakes or exploring the mining area itself. double back and do both mountain passes. There's just a whole lot in this area to absorb in a short amount of time.
Yep. And you know, when you said this, my thought was when you started talking about the Holy Cross, I thought you might be saying something like base camping for the summer or spending a month in the backcountry, because it's certainly the kind of place where you could do something similar. I think that one certainly would work as well. I'm looking up here. I forgot the name of my next pick, everybody. Here we go. I don't know why I forgot this one. This one's been on my bucket list for the longest time, and it's really just a great one. So let me see if I can copy and paste it. This is great live streaming, by the way. I'm sure everybody at home is like, come on, Snack Box, what are you doing to us here? So I think that's a great pick, and I think it's also a really great one because it's a really doable one for you all, but it's also it shows that sort of respect for how beautiful Colorado is, and sort of people who don't live there, I think, don't understand that you can constantly go out there and still find something new and fall in love with new places in the area. I think it's great. Mark, have you ever? Oh, go ahead.
Better season.
That's true as well. Mark, have you ever been out there to Colorado, done any hiking?
No, I haven't. I actually work with a guy who kind of put the bug in my ear a few years ago, and he goes out there about every year. And what all he does, I have no idea, but he can't stop talking about it. I mean, whenever I see him, he raves about it. So it's absolutely on my list.
Yep. And I got to tell you, as Miller and Debbie pointed out, if you go out to the Holy Cross Wilderness, you will absolutely have bugs in your ear and in your eyes and in your nose and your mouth. It
is so bad. It's the worst on the trail. I had the head net. It was just, I'm spraying constantly. Yeah, it was bad.
I think we went into a fit of just holy crap, Batman, holy mosquito wilderness.
So thick, yeah.
Holy, I can't wait to get out of here. I mean, they were thick.
We'll just go a different time of year. We won't go that same time of year.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I mean, it's tough, but it's also really beautiful. So if you can see through that, and I just love it. I think that's a great pick. What I love more, though, is my next pick, which is this one is going back international, and I'm going to pick Torres del Paine National Park, which is part of Patagonia. This one has been on my list. This one, if I were being true to sort of the strategy of the game here, I probably would have picked it first because this is just absolutely phenomenal. You'll recognize some of the pictures are kind of iconic. It's also great in the sense that it's in the southern hemisphere, so you can go during winter time when a lot of people are not able to get out in the woods during sort of the rougher seasons here, the winter and the later and earlier shoulder seasons, which would be really, really tough, I think. But I love this one, and I'd love to head down there and have an adventure or two in that area as well.
That's
beautiful. And I just think I'd love to get down there. I'd love to be in an area that's got some good food. Obviously, I think you all can probably appreciate that. I think that one would be, it would just be a cool experience, I think. And to be able to share it with some people that I love, I think would be really cool too. And then here, I'm going to type up my next one. And this one is an aspirational one because I am not an athlete like one of the people here in this room. And I've had some overuse injuries in the past, and I've had some shared sciatica pain with other people in the room right now. And I tell you, I would absolutely love to take on the challenge of doing the CDT. Of all of the long trails, this is the one that, I've done more mileage on it because of the Colorado Trail, but there's some stretches where I think you hit such a diverse landscape, and then you also get these places where it's still really challenging. And I just think it's one of those where you'd really have to push yourself to be able to kind of figure out how to make it work, but I think I started getting into some bigger miles on the CT. I think that it may be possible at some time for my little Babe Ruth legs to, kind of move along down the mountain and make some miles. And also, Jennifer here out of Buena Vista, she is a legitimate athlete. And so if she starts hiking the trail, I don't think I will be able to keep up whatsoever. So that's that. And that, my friends, brings us here to Mad Hippies Life with their fourth pick.
Curveball.
Uh-oh, here we go.
This is all about ancestry to us.
Oh.
So this is really personal.
Okay.
But maybe would encourage other people to take on such a challenge themselves. Years ago, we really got into ancestry a lot and thoroughly enjoyed finding out, about our family's heritages and where we both come from and how, we wound up in Colorado. One of the most interesting points that could be made about our ancestry research is that both of our families followed the same path from the East Coast along the same, Tennessee, Arkansas, Alabama, in the deep South and in the, upper South there. And they were in the same counties, in the same towns, at the same times, and we thought, my God, this is so incredible that both of our families were doing this. And we thought, wouldn't it be something to go out to, say, North Carolina,
start there,
and take all of the places that they had all been and walk that path ourselves and see those places that they were at, see where they lived, visit the cemeteries and all the places that our history evolved in, and that would be such a cool thing. And even a little side note, she had found what was it?
It was a will, an ancestor.
An ancestor of hers had passed away, and one of the pallbearers.
No, one of the it was actually the executive of the will was his relative.
Was a relative of mine.
Going back generations, I have no idea how.
So who knows? Maybe we're cousins. We don't.
I guess you'll find out when you get to Alabama, right?
Oh no!
But no, I mean, it just struck a note with us one time that it would be so neat because the trip would involve both of our heritages.
Yeah.
And
we wouldn't have to go far to veer off the path to say, well, we have to go somewhere else for your family. They were both in the same places.
And hit I like cemetery, hit the cemeteries and things. And there's a website called Find a Grave where you can post headstones. Yeah. And put some of those on as well. So I'd love to do that. That's something we wanted to spend time doing.
Family's been everything to us from day one. So this would be just such a really cool thing, not only for us to experience, but to document and share with our grandchildren and their children and so forth. I think it would just be so cool.
So it goes to the Smokies and all that. So we'd hit all the trails in the, we would hit trails in the Smokies.
This would easily be 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds like I love the idea of having your 4th round pick be something really personal like that. And especially one that, nobody else is going to think to do because it's so unique and personal to you. I think that's a really cool pick for sure. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw there what old Tim said. But he just wanted to point out that he's pretty open-minded here. And,
hey, Tim, we could be related. We don't know. We'll find out.
And then Dave here explains that there's really nothing wrong as long as you're on Game of Thrones. It's totally fine. That's okay as well. Things are getting out of control in the chat here. I think whoever that was who sort of broke in and started putting up a bunch of inappropriate links, I think they've gotten into our brain a little bit.
Oh no.
Goodness gracious. I think there's also a good time to mention that I'm running a 10% off deal for Black Friday on my OnlyFans. So anybody who's interested, go check that out. And that brings us here over to Tridudy. How do you follow that one?
I don't know. Anything I choose is going to seem so superficial. It's like, totally set me up. Guys.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea that they're like, here is the most meaningful, heartfelt, thoughtful thing. And then Tridudy is going to be like, yeah, I really want to climb the Angel's Landing in Zion. I think that would be great.
Yeah, exactly. I totally set me up.
I want to do an Instagram picture on top of Mount Washington. It's fine. What do you have for us here? We'll try to.
All right. Well, I'll give it to you. But so this past season, I guess I've actually had opportunities to do a good bit of backpacking in Michigan, and I really wanted one of the picks to be in Michigan. And so I did Pictured Rocks just maybe a month ago or something like that. And
great video.
Early in this, it was awesome time. And earlier I was at Isle Royale, And so I spent about a week there, and things really didn't go as planned. And I really, really want to go back to Isle Royale. And there's a trail there called the Greenstone Trail that gets probably most of the love. But what I really want to do is what is arguably the most difficult hike in Michigan, which is the Minong Ridge Trail. And it's not long. It's only about 30 miles, 28 miles, but it's extremely difficult, at least by our standards. And, you know, the moose and the wolves and the wildlife, it's just,
oh yeah.
And so I want to go back, and I want to do that and dedicate some time to do that. It's a really, really unique place. I mean, Snackbox, you've been to Isle Royale. I mean,
yeah, it's, you know, Isle Royale, I've been fortunate in my lifetime here to do, I'm going to type up Minong here, Trail, Isle Royale, and National Park. So I've been fortunate enough to have been to, at this point, I think 51 of the national parks. And I got to tell you, Yosemite is my favorite, but if somebody tells me Isle Royale's their favorite, there's no argument for me that it is such a special place. For those of you who don't know, Isle Royale is really interesting because it is the least frequently visited national park in the lower 48, but the most frequently revisited. And that's all you need to know about it. I mean, it is, it's just phenomenal. And you can see from the pictures, one of the things that it just doesn't do justice, the pictures don't do justice for the park, is how sort of the land looks from afar. So when you're approaching on the ferry, it's just really incredible. It just
like Jurassic
different.
Park. It's like, because we took the plane in, and it looks like you're coming onto Jurassic Park, just like out of the movies. It's amazing. It's wild.
Yeah, I think of it. Oh, go ahead.
That's the one question we always ask people when they mention Isle Royale: plane or ferry? Plane or ferry? Which one?
I've never taken the ferry, but the plane, it's a 30-minute plane ride, and there's no vomit involved whatsoever.
But it's a seaplane, right?
It is.
This has got to be a really. This is not your typical plane ride.
No, it's like, you know, 6 people on the plane, and you know, it's a really cool experience. I mean, it obviously costs a little more, but it's a very different experience. But I can't speak for the ferry.
Yeah, I think the ferry was really cool. It also depends on sort of when you, like, the weather could be really a factor. I had a pretty tough go on a ferry over to Dry Tortugas National Park, where I was pretty sure we were going to die. And so I was really nervous crossing Lake Superior to it, because it's about a 4-hour trip, and the boat is actually smaller than the one that we got tossed around in on our way to Dry Tortugas. But I mean, it's just spectacular. It's just, when you approach it, it looks like every movie about a summer vacation in the woods or in a cabin. It literally just is the most beautiful area. I think it's just bananas good. It's just really cool. If you've not been, I think it's good for everybody. And I've also thought about trying, maybe in the future, getting a group of folks to go out there, because they have shelters everywhere. So I mean, we had a really rainy day. We just stayed in the shelter and ate snacks all day. It was pretty terrific, I'm not gonna lie.
Snacks?
Yeah. Great. Well, that brings us back to you two, Miller and Debbie. What do you have for your is that your final trip? Oh, hold on. No, I'm sorry, Mark, you have 2.
So I have one more I have to do, right?
That's it. You get to do.
Yep. Sorry.
This is all voluntary.
There's no duress here whatsoever. So this last one, and I don't know a lot about it, but I know maybe just enough to be dangerous.
Okay.
And it's a reasonably long trail, at least by my standards.
Okay.
And it is out west again, of course. And it's the Tahoe Rim Trail. So it's 165 miles, give or take, something like that. But as far as, you know, the vistas and the lakes and the peaks and that, it really, really appeals to me.
Yep.
And it's not an insane amount of miles to cover. So I think it's somewhat realistic, but
yeah, I think that's a great pick. That's one I actually was considering having on my list. And so I'm glad it got picked, because it didn't make my final list, but it was like number 6. And it's just, I mean, it goes around the whole lake. So you really get a sense of how beautiful that is. And, you know, Lake Tahoe, if you've not ever been, is just, it's insane. It looks like something from another planet. And to spend all that time up above the sort of lake and get that bird's eye view of it as you go, I think that's a phenomenal pick. And when we talk about drafts, if you're like me and watch the NFL draft, they always talk about sort of value picks, meaning great picks that fell off the board, because this is one that you pretty easily could have picked for number 1, number 2, and everybody would have been on board with it, thinking that's a great 1 or 2 pick, and you managed to scoop it up at number 5. That's a value right there. And I'm guessing here we've got some real energy about that one here in the chat. A lot of people think that it's just really incredible. And I think here Tim Mason is going to follow up with a lot of different trails. So what do you think? Are you ready for your big number 5 here, Miller and Debbie?
Yeah, it's going to be another personal one too. If anybody has ever followed along with us, our heart is in the Indian Peaks Wilderness here in Colorado. A little piece of history: this area was supposed to be Rocky Mountain National Park, and the mining industry was pretty stand strong about them not drawing the boundaries into this area during this time. And they won. They stood their ground, and they said, you're not going to take our livelihoods away from us. But when the mining was gone, people also realized that, hey, we need to protect this area because it is phenomenal. Yeah. So, we have spent a lot of time in the Indian Peaks Wilderness off and on since we moved to Colorado, and it stole our hearts day one. Yeah. We have a personal goal to create a trail from the north to the south, about 75, 80 miles, maybe a little more. And we're going to document it. We've already mapped it out, and we want to approach the Forest Service with perhaps signage or making it official, a north to south through hike through the Indian Peaks Wilderness here in Colorado. That would just be like the tip of the iceberg for us on a personal note, because it's just such a beautiful place to us. And every one of our dogs, our children, our grandchildren, we love taking friends there. Everybody, we want them to experience it and see what captured our hearts when we first moved to Colorado.
30 years of memories there. So yeah. So that's a special place. Almost every weekend we could go and just get lost and come back. Yeah. And
it doesn't matter the season, we go.
But they have mosquitoes too. So.
Oh, yes, they do.
So,
you go on our YouTube page, and we have everything listed by wilderness areas. And by and far, the most videos we have is going to be Indian Peaks Wilderness.
Yeah.
But to be able to document and create a trail, and hopefully, have the Forest Service on board with allowing it, that would just be a dream for us,
I love it. I love the idea of having a sort of legacy, and especially given the amount of time and energy you all have invested in Colorado and hiking culture there, and just getting people into the Indian Peaks. I think that's a phenomenal idea, and it's really just such a nice sentiment to think about the ways that you can help people get in the backcountry, and especially getting in such a way that's not going to do any damage to the ecosystem, and help people make their way through. Details here says it's awesome. I agree. Tim here loves the idea, and also hashtag over there talks about he's going to be heading out that way. And I got to tell you, if you don't know hashtag, I think you probably do. He needs to be. Oh, you know him. I'm sorry. We've talked.
We've already told him we'll be his personal tour guides if he needs it.
Yep. I think that's just such a great one here. And to Detail's point here, as I wrap things up with my number 5 pick.
Yes.
My hope is actually similar to yours, Miller and Debbie. My plan is to act in that area between Nebraska and Kansas. I'm going to build a mountain range and then build a through hike there. And it's going to be all off trail. Got to be ultralight. It's going to be,
that's good.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful mountains. And the way that we're going to build it is actually, we're going to require that only cool animals show up. So there will be, it's kind of like Noah's Ark style. We're going to call it the Noah's Ark Mountains or the Noah's Ark Range. People are going to call it it's going to be sort of play on words like no Ozark, right? Shout out to Tim there.
You could recycle all the bars that nobody really wants to eat on the trail after they've tired of them, and use those to pile them up. It's organic material.
Yeah. It's organic material, but still somehow harder than diamonds. I don't know how that works. I don't know. So, so I'm going to build a mountain range. Good luck with your little trail there in the Indian Peaks. Oh goodness.
Wow.
If you all want to send me hate mail, I'll give you my address here. My pick is going to be pretty standard, and it sort of goes to a little bit of what I talked about with Tridudy's White Mountain trip, but I'd like to do the original Long Trail. This one has been on my radar for a long time. It seems physically daunting because it's, again, sort of the elevation can be deceptive because it's sort of up and down really rapidly with a lot of steep inclines. It's just been on my list, and it's had a lot of ties to the founding of the AT. And it sort of is the reason that we started doing through hikes in general, with Bent Mackay and a couple of folks kind of setting up their childhood or spending their childhood there on the Long Trail. And not for nothing, my favorite beer in the world is the Long Trail Brewery's Long Trail Ale. And I'm excited about it. I think someday in the future, maybe little Augie and I will make a trip out there one summer, and he will just complain and say, "Dad, listen, knock it off with all the stupid jokes." And he will push me off one of those mountains here. And Jerry here enthusiastically agrees. Good one. It's simple. I love it. So let's go back over here, everybody. We'll do a quick review. And as we do, I just want to point out that we'll be doing another draft in about 10 days. We're going to have hashtag from Tangent Trails. We're going to have Keel Quest here and Salmon Outdoors.
Awesome.
They're going to come in, and we are going to be drafting the best gear for under $100 for those gearheads out there. Nice. Hope you'll make it out. I think it's going to be another fun time. I personally have had a blast doing this today. And so in review, for those of you who will be taking part in the voting later here, let's take a peek. We've got right out of the gate, Tridudy on Trail selected the John Muir Trail, the Grand Canyon National Park Rim to Rim to Rim Trail, the Presidential Traverse, the Minong Trail of Isle Royale National Park, and the Tahoe Rim Trail. That's a great draft right there. We're going to follow it up here. Mad Hippies Life selected the Washington stretch of the PCT, the Wind River Range, Holy Cross Loop, what we're going to call the Ancestry Pilgrimage. So sort of tracking down their ancestry and doing a little bit different adventure, which I love. And then also the DIY trail, which is the adventure is maybe hiking it, but also getting it established as a trail that other folks can hike. I think that's one of the most original that we've got there. And also here. I love it. I think it's great. And when you build it, then Mark and I are going to go, and I'm going to race him, and we're going to go and try to make it down there. Good evening there. We've got Keel Quest here, made it in. They're also Michigan. What is it? Centric? I don't know. They made it here, and they will be here in just 10 days, sharing this space and picking some picks with us. And then here with the clear winner, we've got here the Tour du Mont Blanc, the Wonderland Trail, Torres del Paine, the CDT, and the Long Trail. So sort of themes here, if we think about it. We've got quite a bit of sort of personal connection from Mad Hippies there. We've got really testing the limits of what you can engage with physically in the space there from Tridudy. And then just a bunch of long trails for me as a person who needs a reason to eat snacks regularly. So just a really, really fun time with everybody. For those of you watching from home, I'll encourage you to just keep an eye on that community tab. I'll be posting a survey soon. For those of you here, any final words? Well, let me do this before we go. So be sure you check out all of these channels. I want to ask each of you all, what's next on the agenda for your channels, or what kind of adventures can people expect coming up, either as this year wraps up or as we head into 2023. So I'll pass it over there to Mark with Tridudy on the Trail.
Well, so actually, I tend to do just trip videos until I got roped into doing a gear video because of you, Snackbox. It's the only one I've ever done. It was probably a huge disaster, but
it was great. It was great.
I am planning to go to, actually on Friday, on Black Friday, get away from all the madness and go to the Manistee River trail. It's a loop I've done before with my son, and it's a pretty popular one around here. But that's really what I have next, and beyond that, I have no idea. So I'm hoping to go to the Porkies with a guy named Skidmark that I've done some videos with, who he has some really good ideas there. But I mean, nothing really incredible at the moment. But I'm really hoping to have something pretty epic this spring, maybe summer.
Yeah, that Manistee River, I think you and I talked about that ages ago, and we weren't able to get a trip going, but it's been on my agenda ever since, because I think you really sold me on it, and I've been thinking about getting out there at some point. I love it.
Come with me on Friday if you want.
I tell you what, if I tried to leave this house with that little baby, I would.
Don't ask, just do it.
Yeah, that would be my chance to hike the CDT.
It might up his base weight a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That'd be a tough one. What about you, Miller and Debbie? What's next for you all in the coming year?
We're currently waiting for the snow to pile up so we can get some good snowshoeing in finally.
Yep.
It's kind of been hard in the West with the snow, but it's piling up finally, and we want to get out there and create some nice snowshoe videos, maybe pique somebody's interest in that, because in the wintertime, a lot of people seem to draw back and not do as much, and we promised ourselves to keep going no matter what the weather or the season, so we're going to keep going. Yeah. And then next year, barring time, we have a 5th grandchild on the way now.
Congratulations.
So
that's great.
That's going to be coming hopefully soon in the spring. But outside of that, just get back out there and keep moving, and just keeping our bodies on trail.
The Collegiate West.
The Collegiate West
we didn't do that. We went
something
east,
we definitely want to continue to do. Somebody stole a couple of our ideas already, so we can't talk about the Alps and doing the hut tours or anything like that. We can't talk about going and doing the whites, because somebody talked about doing that.
Yeah, it's so funny.
We had plenty of these on our list, and we're like, scratch that one off.
Well, I just want to point out here that it started with me saying that I was going to build a mountain range to one up your trail, and then suddenly magically you have a grandbaby on the way. I feel like maybe this is. I'm gonna need sort of a notarized letter from your children to confirm that this is in fact you about to welcome a new little one into the world.
This could be a good time to pull out your ace in the hole upstairs.
I tell you, I think he just fell asleep. I think finally, but you all be ready, because I think little man will likely make an appearance sometime soon on the channel, and awesome. Really excited for you all having your 5th grandbaby, and just good things all around. And Tridudy, you had a son just recently graduate. Is that correct? Last May. That's why you weren't able to go to the Smokies with us.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what happens when you raise a kid who's capable of passing high school, is that you have to miss out on adventures. So my plan is to make sure that Augie never learns how to read, and that way I can take him on all the trips and not have to worry about any of his accomplishments standing in the way of my adventures. So
question that strategy a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna need him to take care of me when I'm probably 10 years older. I was gonna say old, but I tell you, I feel it right now. My hips are creaking every time I walk. So well, everybody, thank you all so much for your time tonight. It was great. For the two of you all, stick around. I'm gonna put you in the green room here, but don't leave just yet. I want to say thank you in person, off camera here. For those of you watching from home, thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you all again. Actually, I'll just keep you all here, and so I'll stop the live stream shortly. Thank you all from home. Thank you, Quest and Jennifer and Hike with Mike and Tangent Trails. Thank you, Rolf, for showing up tonight. It was great to see you as well. If I missed anybody, Huck, Tim, details, I apologize if I missed you, but I'm grateful for all of your time as we head into Thanksgiving. I hope that you all will find people that you can say that you're thankful for and spend time with them tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.